Hey guys, so I did another question and answer. I'm going to do another one for the group. I posed a question, and the question is that I posed to the group that so you could ask me questions is what would you like to ask me on being a reader, what it's like, or how to develop? Post your questions and I'll answer. And I did another one. If you check my other video on reading, I have a lot of good question and answers that I did. That was an hour long video, but it's worth it. It's very interesting. I promise you. I try to be interesting. And the very first question was from Heidi. Do you read for yourself? If so, are they accurate? Yes and yes. I do read for myself. Now, it's a big thing within the reading community amongst psychics, tarot readers, intuitives, so on and so forth. And being able to read for yourself, some people believe is impossible. And the reason why they say is because it's hard to be objective. Okay, there's some truth in that. It can be difficult to be objective. For example, if I'm reading my love life, okay, it can be a little difficult. I might be sitting there as a person and really wanting things to go a certain way. And it can be hard to get that out of the way. But if you trained yourself as a reader not to be like that, to just kind of, okay, Spirit, I'm going to let you take the floor. Let's tell me what I need to know here. I'm going to, not try to look at what I want, but what you have to say. You can do that. You can do that. But it is, for some who have a hard time being objective, they can't do it. So that's one of the things I've learned. Trust Spirit. Maybe you're going to show me something that I really don't like. But at the same time, I have to get the message truthfully. I have to be honest about my situation. If you could do that and get yourself out of the way, you could read for yourself. So for readers or psychics, whatnot, mediums who say that you can't read for yourself, that is not true. As far as being accurate, oh yeah. When I get my little self out of the way, yes, I made my own kind of predictions on lots of things. And there are some times, I'm real good about job situations if something's going to last or not. I'm good with that. Even when my one job I was at for 8 years, I started getting a bad feeling that there was going to be a layoff, for example. And that's with no cards or anything. I started checking stocks. Like I was sitting there one day and I'm like, Spirit's like, you need to check the stocks in this company. So I kind of went in and started pulling stuff up on the computer in between calls. We were down 25%. And I went, well, maybe it's time to start applying because I think something's about to go down. So I started applying. I took another job and everything. And sure enough, toward the end of the year, they started laying off people. And that was about in April, March to April, when I started looking. And then by January of the next year, the company was completely done. Okay, so yes, I can read my own situations and myself. I really pay attention to the message of Spirit. So if Spirit ever tells you to look at something or pay attention to something, oh yeah, and that was a big one. That was a big one I saw coming. And a lot of times when we see certain things coming, it's especially to prepare ourselves. Now, Katie asked, and she's one of my tarot students she's doing a fantastic job. I'm really proud of her. She's got her own group, doing her own thing, really good. How do you develop over time? Do you take more classes or learn on your own? Yeah, definitely continue that. One of the things I do have a spiritualist church out here. I need to get back to it. Maybe I should go tomorrow. Maybe I should. It's finally open. But one of the things I would do is I would take classes there, intuition classes, tarot classes. Even though I've been reading for a while and things like that, I'm always open to learn something new. It's like, I know this tarot, I know this. Well, why be sitting in a class? Because you can learn something new, especially when other people give their perspective. Like, for example, just flipping over, just, pulling the Ace of Swords. I may see the Ace of Swords a certain way. I know this is about the truth and justice. It also can be about good communication and things like that, diplomacy, honesty. But other people may see it a little bit different. They may have a different take on it. We also know it's a weapon. We always want to remember that as well. That's one of the things. Truth can be a weapon, right? But maybe somebody has a little bit softer type of meaning of it. Maybe somebody has a little bit stronger, even more brutal meaning. So you can learn, like when you're sitting in a class and everybody's interpreting their layout, you can definitely learn from other people. So taking classes, I also did intuition classes. Some of the things we would do is they may have a photo, but they wouldn't show us the photo. They keep it kind of down. And then we would sit there, and you would go up to sit down at the top, where the thing is in front of an audience, you could say, and you're sitting there and getting an impression. I'm seeing this, I'm seeing a little boy. I think he has blonde hair. I'm feeling this, I'm feeling that. So I would sit up there and test myself that way and everything. And then they would turn over the photo, whoops, and there it is. And that's awesome because I'm using the clairvoyance to be able to do it. So yes, taking classes, I've done that as well. I really love the intuition classes, especially to see that. I remember when I was in it, there was the lady who runs the church. She was sitting over to the side of me and stuff. And then the audience is in the back, and this one guy, I'm trying to read for him. And I'm, giving my impressions. And I was like, I see a lady, she's in a rocking chair, she's rocking back and forth. And I'm talking about this and talking about that. She's reading a book, she's doing this and that. And he's like, no, that doesn't resonate. No, that doesn't resonate and all this. And I'm like, okay. So then the lady who runs the church, she stopped me what I was doing. And she's like, Ellen, she goes, I think you're picking up on me. She was like, I was just sitting on my porch today and I was rocking in the rocking chair reading a book. So that's the way sometimes when you're in front of an audience, you may get all kind of stuff. So really trying to even focus. Let me put my focus on another person without interference. Doing things like that, really learning how to do that in classes. So yes, definitely taking classes is really good. Now I know on Facebook, lots of people have classes, intuition classes. You can join. That's something I am working on right now. I'm coming up with some ways I can do a Zoom and do some intuition classes for people to really kind of test them in various ways. And I'm also looking at talking to people who would like to be, volunteers to be able to be read. I'm looking at that, especially for tarot class. I'm going to start doing that. That's one thing I haven't done with tarot class, is have people kind of on the sidelines. Okay, I want you to go give them a general reading, which a lot of people are going to be afraid of that, right? But, that's the way you learn. That's the way you learn. So yeah, lots of ways of testing myself. I did. So if you see classes like on intuition that'll really test your abilities, don't be afraid of them. Definitely do them and never stop doing them. I love to test myself. Even you guys saw my psychic abilities test that I put in the group and on TikTok. Those I test myself with Zener cards. I'm terrible at Zener cards and stuff, but it feels so good when you get it right and everything. But I'm better with people. I feel I'm better with people, reading them. I read souls more than I can read objects. Okay, so from Danielle Tobias, I often get a feeling, and I know she puts it in quotes, okay, about someone, but I'm not sure how accurate it is. What is a good way to develop the skill? So if you say if you're getting feelings about people in the group when you're reading and so forth, with doing that, kind of one of the things you can do, it's like, say if you're in the group, let me get a journal, kind of show you guys something you can do. I don't necessarily do this right now, but it would be helpful, and I did things like this before. But one of the things, say you're looking at a photo of somebody in the group and you're about to read them. So you're going to kind of tune in, when you're kind of sensing something, get a little notebook and just write down certain impressions that you're having. Just like maybe certain one or two words here or there, like kind of stop, and like if you're getting sadness, write sadness. I'm feeling guilt about something, like I feel like they feel like guilty about something. And or for example, sometimes, I feel there may be an addiction in the midst, so write down addiction. Write all your words, just kind of let it flow, and don't overthink anything that your impression. Just kind of write it out, then look at everything what you've got, Okay, like, wow, I wrote down this, and everything. And then just, write your reading out, write, some of the things that you got and everything, and see if they help. But writing them out can be a really good way to do that. That is one of the things. Now, there are obviously crystals can be very helpful. I have a really huge one, but I'll just show my smaller amethyst. And I got this bad boy the other day at the crystal store. Labradorite is real good for psychic abilities. So getting those can be very helpful. You can kind of hold that one's a little hard to hold. It's very, very heavy, guys. But those are way, like tuning in and working with crystals can be very helpful for opening abilities. But just continually exercise the muscle. But yeah, if you're kind of feeling something about someone, just write it down. Write down all the keywords that are kind of coming to you, and really tune into things you see. Like, close your eyes, and are you seeing certain scenes play, like scenes in a movie? And then write those down as well, some of the scenes. And, let the person, I'm seeing, I feel like we may have been at the movies the other day, and we were with our partner, and I was kind of seeing an argument. One of the things I felt we were at the movies is that after the movie we started having an argument about something. Did something like that happen? Throw these things out there and see how they respond. But definitely, give that a try. So, Amy Bird, how do you develop the ability to know when you're getting the right thing? For example, I'm about to start Oracle card reads, and I just don't know what is right, when it is right. I shouldn't second guess myself, if that makes sense. I don't have the abilities to see or hear spirit. We all have the ability to see or feel spirit. Let me tell you that right now. So right there, we want to just X that out. I just made a nice X on my notebook. We all have the ability to see or feel spirit. Okay, so right there, Amy, when you're saying that, you're shutting yourself off. Spirit's not doing it for you, but you've shut yourself off right there. Okay, you have a connection. You have a connection. It's just a matter of listening and sensing and extending that connection to the spirit. So visualize, we talked about this in last video, crown chakra, reaching to the higher self and the spirit, to source, to be able to connect. Now, the good thing about Oracle, it's a good way to open abilities. Working with tarot, working with Oracle, working with crystals, all those things widen the ability and widen the connection and strengthen them to be able to use that ability. But yes, do not say you're not connected to spirit. Right there, you're shutting yourself off. Spirit's not shutting it off. You're doing it. It's on you. Okay, I'm serious. It's on you. Now, Oracle is real easy. Like, I can pull some Oracle right now. So I'm gonna read for Amy, just kind of briefly on here. I mean, the messages are on the cards, but you of course have to expand on them. So I've got the card forgiveness. So I feel there is somebody that you need to forgive on the path. Now, I know we've read for you before. This might be the husband, but remember, forgiveness is for yourself. It's not necessarily to release the burden off another and give them a pass, but it is especially to release it off of you and off your heart and everything. And I also feel good luck is coming for you. And I want you to kind of notice something. There is a black cat in this image, okay? Which is kind of funny, which makes me feel you have not felt lucky. And all this bad luck keeps happening to you all the time. But I want you to really focus on, but what have you lucked out on? Certain things that you might not have thought are really lucky. I want you to kind of focus on that as well. A lot of times we don't feel lucky, but then, we are really the luckiest person in the world. Financial health is coming to you. So I do feel that's one of the things we need some luck on, is to get a little bit stronger in the finances, and Spirit's going to make a way for that. So I see how they're just 3 simple cards, and there were certain things, yes, that I am feeling that I'm going to give a message of the Spirit. Now, a little bit of is, trial and error. I'm used to, Spirit pulling that card for a certain reason. There's a little bit of that, but also formulating a Spirit. And then we always want to kind of put it together, but all that I felt not lucky. But also sometimes that forgiveness, once we release the burden on ourselves, then the positive things also happen. And that's how I can kind of put it together. But yes, that is the key thing. The key thing, and not second guessing yourself. Now remember guys, I put up 3 psychic abilities tests in the group. I gave good videos, and a lot of you participated, a lot of you got it. But I noticed in the comments, okay, some of you guys were like, you know what, at first I was feeling red, but I changed my mind and I went with brown, but then the answer was red, right? You second guessed yourself. First impression is normally right. And I want you, we know this with people, right? Very often, now I know it's not a rule, I know there's a little room for error, but normally the first impression of a person is correct. When you meet them and so forth, experience them, very often it can be correct. Okay, so don't second guess yourself. But yes, that's a big one. I wanted to definitely address that. You have a connection to spirit. Everybody does. Everybody does. So with Pamela, as my gifts increased, I became incredibly, overwhelmingly emotional. Yeah, I empathize. Okay. How does one deal with overwhelming emotions that seem to rise through connecting with other stories and feelings their lives? It's absolutely overwhelming and sometimes disabling. Very good. Shielding. Shielding. And I need to do a YouTube video on it. Shielding is a big one. I do have a video on my page how to do that. I had one in the group, but God, finding it buried after 5 years is really hard. But basically, what we do is we have a kind of a very nice shield around our aura, which can kind of block unwanted emotional or negative energies from coming into our auric field and eating away at it. Okay, that is a way of also practicing detachment. So when I read, I'm reading energy of the person. You know, I'm going to connect with their energy and read, but I'm also doing it in a safe way that I'm not going to become overwhelmed by what is going on. I have to practice some kind of level of detachment, or else I'm going to get swept up in their emotions. Okay, you know, I can't do that. I can't do that. So the good shield helps to kind of protect me, especially if somebody is dealing with extreme negativity. For example, another reason I want a shield is if I'm ever, like we talk about negative entities, they might have that around them. There are times I've removed them. I need a shield, right? I need a shield. I can't have it link into me, right? So the way you do it, I'll give you the brief way, but I do have a better video, is going, like, you could go outside and you could keep it permanently on your field. You want to cleanse it, but you don't have to keep putting a shield on. Okay, once you got your shield, it's there. You know, but keeping it cleansed is something you're going to want to do. After a while, it'll just do it on its own. And go outdoors, plant your feet into the ground. Barefoot is even better. During the sunlight is the best time to do this. So you plant your feet in the ground, and what you're going to do is you're going to kind of root your feet into the ground, as if the roots are growing out of your feet and going into the earth. Then you're going to draw up energy. I want you to visualize it and surrounding the auric field to the point where it creates this energetic ball. Now, another thing I like to do is, now I've drawn earth energy. Now I'm going to take that sunlight energy, and I'm going to draw it around my auric field. Now, whatever color you want to visualize, some use white light, some may use color. I personally prefer white light because some people that are real sensitive to color could be affected. So you have this white light energy of a shield around you. Now, with that shield and with that white light energy, if negativity gets on your shield, okay, the white light will cleanse it. Okay, now I want you to visualize negative energy is a real thing. Okay, it really does get on you, and it really can eat at the auric field. Hence the reason why we got to have a shield. Okay, I want you to think of lint from a dryer. Okay, if somebody's got a lot of negative energy, they've got a lot of it on them. Okay, and when you kind of connect with them or that you get around them, and you can feel it. If you've ever, like, say you're at a party and you start having a conversation with someone and maybe they're really depressed and they're really down and they're just, they're talking and they're just kind of sad and depressed and they're kind of being miserable, and you're trying to uplift them and trying to uplift them and help them and inspire them, and no, that's not going to work, this, and they're real like that, and negativity can get on you. So I want you to visualize, like, think of lint in a dryer. You know how lint is and how it sticks to everything? Okay, negative energy is like that. But with a shield, you can use that to cleanse that negativity. It doesn't get on your aura. Okay, I know it sounds crazy, but it's true, because it's like negative eons. Where you have positive ions is with your shield. And it's like negative ions get in there and they eat away at your aura. And that's why after talking to that person at the party, okay, you feel real depressed. You feel like low on energy. You might get sick if it's a lot of negative energy. All of a sudden you've got this headache and you're not feeling good. Okay, it affects people. It affects people. So, but when you got that shield, and now I'm talking to that person, and I'm still uplifting and this, that, but when they're like projecting and, they're real down and depressed and talking about a sad story or whatever, when their negative energy kind of hits, it goes on the shield. It's not affecting my aura. So afterwards, I can just, okay, now they go on and they go on about their business. I can visualize that negative energy kind of going down to the earth and the earth taking it. Earth is fine with taking negative energy. It knows what to do. It recycles all of that energy. Okay, so that's what I want you to do, is work on shielding. And then, of course, detachment. It's going to help. Now, I know it seems like, does a shield really work? Just like I was talking about at the spiritualist church I go to. I remember one day I was, it was in one of the classes, actually. I was in one of the intuition classes. And so class was done, and I'm about to go and I'm about to walk out. And this one lady stops me, and she's like, how long have you been shielding? She could see it. She could see it around me. I said, oh, for years now, and everything. So some people that are real good at seeing auras can see a shield on someone. So that's the way to deal with it. So go outdoors and get your shield on, okay? Okay, so we got Amber Reynolds. I've been a reader on and off, and though throughout my life, I think is what she meant, and it comes and goes a lot of time. I can meditate and bring it back, but for the last year or so, that it just don't seem to be working anymore. I'd like to learn how to get back to it. Okay, so one of the things I want you to work on, crown chakra, connecting. Also, doesn't hurt to open heart chakra. Okay, I know everybody gets real focused on the third eye, but we want to work on our connection. If you do that, that's all going to happen. That's all going to happen. But really being open with that connection as well. And just like I told you guys in the last video when I answered your questions, the ability is like a muscle. We got to work with it. We got to keep working. Now, I know sometimes we can feel a little bit shut off. When that happens, like if you've been a reader and you were doing real good, say you've been doing that. I was reading for a while. Everything was going good for a year. I was bang on. It was spot on. Feedback, beautiful. And all of a sudden you can't do it. Okay. Say that happens. And that happens to a lot. That happens to a lot of readers. Like everything is just bang on. Everything was good. Great flow. Maybe they were doing lives and everything. They were right about everybody. And maybe even they started a business and they were doing so good, and then all of a sudden they flatline. Why? The reason why is, for some reason, Spirit wants the reader to put attention on themselves. So what they may do is they may shut them off for a little while. Okay? Not, you'll have the connection to Spirit, but as far as working on other people and the reads and all that stuff, Spirit may want you to focus on something. Okay? So that does happen. There are some, I don't know what's going on. It's not working, this and that. That is the reason why, that they want you to focus. So that's very possible that what happened, like, I want to get it back, And Spirit's like, before I'm going to give it back to you, Amber, I want you to work on this. I want you to work on that. Because whatever kind of issue they want you to work on, and whatever lesson, that will make you more effective with helping other people, if that makes sense. So when you kind of hear this, I feel you should be able to kind of look back and go, you know what, maybe it was my relationship was in the pits, maybe there were some things that need to be worked on, and you're giving relationship advice and guidance and readings, and you're picking up on things about them, but maybe you weren't applying it to yourself. So Spirit shut you down. Okay, you've been doing all these readings and giving all this guidance, but you weren't taking your own advice. So that is a possibility, another reason Spirit shut you down. Once you learn the lessons, once you are at a good place where Spirit feels she's got it, you'll get the ability back. So the next one, this is a little bit, I got to sort through this one. Let me read this again. This is from Joshua, one of my mods. It's hard to develop your steadfastness. To do what we do, there is a certain air or a certain humor that you need to have, where you don't get it all easily offended as others, because Spirit will offend you daily to get you to lighten up. Do you feel like readers should be willing to be open to anything, yet take no shit, the way Spirit does? Okay, so I feel like I know what he's saying. So Spirit is, what I know we think of Spirit as love, and they are, okay, but they can also be tough love too, and they can make some things hard on us if we're going to develop and everything. And as we kind of learn that that's kind of the way Spirit is, what we try to do as readers, healers, and guides is we also try to emulate Spirit the best of our ability. Or I would even say, which might be a better way to put it, integrate the higher self with us as much as possible and be acting more from the higher self way than necessarily what little self would be. So I know there are times when I have given guidance to some people are tough. Some people can real tough and they're not listening and things like that. So sometimes, we got to be a little tougher on them and, and things like that. And just like Spirit can offend us, sometimes, I don't want to offend anybody, but I can be very direct. But people at the same time will appreciate you if you are direct with them. But you do want to, one of these taught me about that. If you're ever going to be real direct with someone, and maybe you hit them with a blow, don't forget the balm, is what he said. So if you got to be tough on somebody with a message, don't forget the balm. Okay? We also want to smooth that over. We can't just, hit somebody with something hard and then leave them there, and everything. So I want you to kind of remember that, because, and say maybe, we say something, really direct, maybe they do get offended. Don't forget the balm. And that is the best thing that is going to help you as a reader. A sinus infection, guys. I've had it for a while. Kathy Haynes, do you ever question what spirit guides show or tell you? How do you trust that it's the right answer? When it comes to, as far as reading, I do trust my connection in the sense that spirit really has not led me wrong in my life. Even when they put me, in places and situations where I could just pull out my hair, but I know it was all for a higher purpose. So I know that connection, I know that feeling, I know the sound of my higher self's voice and everything. It doesn't mean they're always right, because I know my higher self. Now, I got in a big debate with someone on Facebook once because the person swore that the higher self is perfect, knows everything, is perfect, all seeing. And I'm like, wow, I think you got that mistaken with source, because the higher self is developing just like us. They definitely are a more evolved version of us, but it's us. It's us. Okay. And we forget that. We have this kind of godlike thing when we visualize the higher self, but it's us. We don't want to forget that. So One of the things is, so I do feel the higher self can be fallible. I know that when I'm doing missing person and I'm struggling trying to find a location, I'm like, why can't you make it simple and stuff? But I do trust that connection. But one of the ways to know, especially, is say you read for people and they validate what you say. And after you have done that many, many times, I do, just so you guys may not know, I do just as a service, not even counting the free reads I do in the group, but I do about 500 reads a year. And I don't know, some may think that's a big number and some may not. I don't know. But I do probably about 500 reads a year. And then on top of it, I read in the group free. So it's going to be even more than that. Okay. So the feedback that I receive from people, if it's positive, if it's on this, that shows me my connection is real. And that's one of the great things about being a reader is, just like I said in my last video, we start reading because we want to know, am I crazy or am I psychic? Because the stuff can make you nuts and stuff. But then when you get valid, no, I'm not crazy. Okay. That's one of the things. So yeah, but do I ever question what I'm getting? Sure. Absolutely. Somebody could this, like say I'm doing a medium reading, I'm writing things down and doing it, and I'm doing my video, and I'm just, I'm sitting there, I'm giving the messages, but I'm like, did I get there right? This, that, and everything. But then I'll know once I put it out there and everything, if this person validates, then I'm like, okay, I know. But yeah, but there are still those moments strongly that I know damn well this is the case, that kind of situation. But I've learned to trust my connection. I guess that's the simplest way I can say it is I've learned to trust my connection and everything. They just, I'm not wrong very often and everything. I can be wrong. Sometimes say I'm doing a reading and I'm covering a lot of ground, and maybe I was off on a couple things, but the overall message I normally get. So Cornelius, and he's doing so good in the group. He's the one who bumped this read and reminded me, oh, and my phone's about to die, so I'm going to have to look at this. Oh, okay. Well, I might have to pull up my laptop, guys. Okay, hopefully I can get this done soon. So he says, how did you know you were ready to turn your gifts into a business? How did you come across tarot and learn it? And how did you deal with family members who may not believe in your gifts? Okay, so we got 3 questions. So let me write that down because my phone's about to die. That's great. And so if I have to grab my laptop, I will, guys. So we're going to talk about the business, how I found tarot, absolutely, and family members. Yeah, we'll talk about that. Okay, so as far as I've read 21 years now. I guess it's 21, which is sometimes hard to believe. That's when I began reading people. And so I pretty much, just like many on the internet, started reading in chat rooms. And then forums were a big thing. So I would go to spiritual forums, places you could read and read people there. Now, the beginning, I was reading astrology mainly. My very first divination was I Ching. But then I started doing astrology charts. That was my love. That was really my first love. And I don't do it as a service as of now. I do know how to read them very well. But I don't do them as a service as of now because there's a lot of work involved, okay? Because most people want to know about forecasts with astrology. And they also want personality interpretations. You can get that from a computer nowadays. They have very sound programs to give you that. But forecasting is a lot of work. Incredibly accurate, if you know that they will be the stars. But when it comes to that, you gotta track every transit and everything like that, and detail it, especially if you're going to do it for a year, and check everything that's going on against their chart with all the planetary energies and make certain predictions of things. And it could take a couple hours. Okay? It could take a couple hours to do that. So that's one of the reasons I don't want to do it. But I do sometimes, if people post their chart, I will read them. So, but let me go back into that. So how I started, I decided to, Spirit wanted me to start doing it on a lot of a regular basis. Before I was, of course, I was working on myself, on my own spiritual path with the teacher and growing, doing a lot of the shamanic journey was really my thing. And that's something I would like to incorporate later. But exactly, as a service, doing it professionally, I ended up, for me to continue to be able to do readings and so forth, I kind of had to, take it on as a business for my time. I can't do completely free, I will burn out. So, and it's also a way of kind of valuing what I do. I felt I was worth it and I was ready to do that. So I say about 6, 7 years ago, I started doing that. And then, but I really started building a lot more of it, and got much more serious about it, especially when I created the group and so forth. After I started getting into it, there were a lot of people even, I'll donate, I'll do, things like that. And then I just decided, what, let's just do it and everything. And I started my page and everything, my business and so forth. But it's kind of funny, I'll tell a story. My very first paid reading was such a bomb. I feel like I think I was a little nervous because it was the very first time I did a paid read and, took money or anything for it. So it was a phone. They wanted to do the phone, which I already feel out of my element because if I'm on a pull cards, I want to show people cards, right? I want to show them. So I just feel like I can only give half a reading if I'm over the phone. So I won't do phone anymore because with tarot, it's very visual. I have to show them stuff. But I have had some people that want phone reads and I just say no. But I just feel like on that read, I felt like kind of my nerves were definitely there. I was able to pull off a good read. It still went well and everything. But I definitely look back like you were nervous, and stuff like that because I really wanted to do the best I could and stuff like what if I bomb this and everything. But of course I figured out especially what worked, like a lot of people do on Facebook Messenger reads, for example, and they write their reads out. But I started learning this is the video age and it's so much better if I video chat or I make a video. I do, obviously everybody knows I do video reads in the group. I feel I can make a much better connection with people if I do video reads. So that's pretty much another thing. So I won't be a phone reader. You won't see me on the phone. And I sometimes wonder how the phone readers, which that used to be the big thing, but people are kind of getting away from that, do that. Now I know video, like chats and stuff people can do, but I think it's so much better to go one-on-one with people face to face so they can see you and how you're reading and everything. And I feel that's part of the reason I do very well is because people can see me and they can connect with me versus I'm just words on a screen is really important. So yeah, about 6, 7 years ago I started. But yes, my first read, I feel like it was awful. I'm not going to lie. It was awful. I wasn't prepared and I was nervous. How I found tarot, when I met my catalyst, which is what I call them, they were my catalyst. I pretty much, he's the one who introduced me to astrology and divination. I started getting into astrology and that especially got me more curious about other forms of divination. So I got tarot. Now I've told this story before, but not everybody knows it. So I'll tell it again. So I got the Rider-Waite deck, my very first deck. And so I got the deck, I get it open. I don't know what anything means. I shuffle the deck real good, just like we do when we get our new decks, we shuffle them up. So I shuffle the cards for a while because everything's in order, right? You want to get everything messed up. And then I didn't do reversals. I pulled 4 cards. And I don't know what they mean. I don't know anything. I remember the Emperor was one of them. That's the warrior card. And that makes perfect sense. That card would show, which has a lot to do. I'll have to talk about one day. So I put the cards back in the deck. And I shuffle for a while. And I pulled the same 4 cards in the same exact position. Now, it's one thing to pull the same cards, but in the same exact position. And I shuffled well. And that's the crazy thing. I purposely shuffled well. And that kind of freaked me out a little bit. I'm not going to lie. It kind of freaked me out a little bit. And that showed me tarot is real. And it meant business in my life. And so I definitely looked at that and I went, this is a real form of divination. This is a magical system. And it is magic. And that's another thing people need to understand. When they're working with tarot, they are working with magic. That, bottom line, it was created by ceremonial magicians as a magical system of divination. It's magic. And that's one of the things we got to understand. So that was my introduction to tarot, and I started working with it, and inevitably practicing reading for myself, practicing reading for others, and so forth. And that's what got me into it. But that's what really taught me. Day one, my very first layout, you never forget. Well, maybe some have, but you don't normally forget your first layout and what happens. But that taught me tarot was a real system, and it's not a toy. It's not just a simple deck of cards. And then, so let me pull it up. I know this phone is going to die, so I may have to pull my laptop unless I can do this. Family. Okay, so let's talk about that one. So my sister is a conservative Christian. She's a Trump supporter. I haven't talked to her in about, I think, seven years, something like that. I'm not even sure. And it's been great. But she is conservative Christian and everything like that. Definitely, a little bit of a holy roller. And everybody has a right to their path, so I'm not trying to mock the path. But as you know, when it comes to conservative Christians, when it comes to things like psychic abilities and tarot reading and things like that, they normally don't take too kindly to it. So she did actually buy me a tarot deck. It was a little mini tarot deck once, long time ago. She did actually do that to try to show some kind of support, but I know it still creeped her out and everything like that. And I know she saw it was wrong and everything. So, but, that's, her being Christian is not the reason we don't talk. She's a terrible person. That's why. Okay. But I do definitely feel she thought I was crazy. Okay. So, and that's one of the reasons there was also a rift in the family. Well, I think she's crazy too. But definitely when it comes to it and everything, I don't care what family thinks and so forth about it. Now, my kids are pretty amazing. My son knows everything I do. And my daughter, one thing to understand with my children, I did not indoctrinate them purposely. Okay? I didn't, because I wasn't indoctrinated as a kid either. My parents didn't talk about God. They didn't talk about spirituality. We had no religious books in the home. I'm kind of glad they did not, because that gave me a mind that was open to learn, where I don't have parents putting things in my mind. So, and maybe that's the way they wanted it. We never really talked about that or anything. But, I'm very thankful that is the case, that they didn't indoctrinate me. So that's part of the reason I didn't indoctrinate my kids. But surely they saw all my Buddhas and my tarot cards and everything like that, and they could draw some conclusions. But my daughter did end up kind of following my path, even though I did not indoctrinate her into it. Of course, this is going to spark some curiosity. Now, the funny thing is, and I'll tell this story, my sister, when we first moved here, she really took to my daughter, not necessarily my son. And that's kind of what another thing that bothers me about my sister is she favored one child over the other. But she one day I was living with her at the time, because when I first moved to Washington, I stayed with her about 1.5 years. So one day I come home from work, and she had started working on my daughter, okay? And, one of the things is she would go to a Methodist church. So she's like, Tiana wants to talk to you. And I'm like, okay, what's going on? And then she's like, Tiana wants to get baptized. And so I'm not against it if this is what she wants, but she was starting to indoctrinate her, okay? So then, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, is this what you want to do? So then my daughter starts crying. Like she thinks I'm going to be mad at her and everything. So here comes the fucking indoctrination. Okay? And it's messing with her head. So I was a little pissed about it. But I didn't want to show that. And then I said, if that's what you want to do, go ahead. So, she stopped crying. I'm like, I love you no matter what. If you want to be baptized, go ahead. So I went to the baptism. They didn't dunk her in water. They did just, water. But later, after my daughter started to see my sister for what she is, we, getting away from her, with all of the, toxicity and everything. I remember she said something to me a few years later, and I kind of don't blame her, but, because the water really represented a little bit more than just Jesus. It represented my sister's, what she did to her mind. And she said, I wish I could get this off my head, is what she said. And everything. She actually regretted getting baptized. And I told her, I said, don't do that. I said, don't, it's not about her. It's not about her. So don't regret doing that. Don't be like that and everything. So she's, she also won't talk to her because of other things she did to her too. So that's a little bit with my crazy family. But yeah, she tried to indoctrinate my kid, but and that's one thing said, I did not try to indoctrinate her. But Tiana, she's very strong-minded. She has a mind of her own, and inevitably she took to my path anyway. She kind of did that. But true story on that. So yeah, so family, I know she thinks I'm crazy. I think she's crazy. That's the way it is. Oops, and I'm about to mess up. Hold on. Okay, and we're almost there. Now I've got a lot okay, we're going to have to pull out laptop to finish this. So give me 1 second, guys. I'm going to put it off to the side. Because my phone is dying. Okay. Just hold on 1 sec. Sorry to do this to you guys. I wish I could put it over to the side, but I have no room because I'm filled with cards. Okay. Yeah, once I get this up, I can move it out of the way. Sorry, guys. Okay. Where we go? Okay. Here we go. Okay, now let me just set this somewhere that I can read your guys' comments. Okay, so the next one. At what age you started non-professional reading? How was the responses? And is your gift hereditary? Hopefully I don't run out of time because this is going to die too. I'm so sorry I didn't charge it up. The very first time that I read anybody was in chat rooms. I went into a psychic chat and I'd been reading for myself and all that. But one day I had my little tarot cards and I never read for anybody. Okay? This was my first introduction to reading. And it was like Yahoo chats. They would have psychic this, that. You could go in and everything, get in the chat room. And then they could privately message you and you could do a reading. So anyway, so the very first read I did, I'm reading this lady's cards. I'm on a chat and everything. And I'm kind of sitting there and I'm just reading her cards and stuff. But my clairaudience started kicking in where I could hear things. And I'm like, I'm getting the name Steve. Who is Steve? And so she stopped responding on the chat for a few minutes. And I'm kind of like, you there? And then so she finally messaged me and she's like, I just got off the phone with him. And I'm like, okay. So I said, so we kind of talked about Steve, and she's like, he's not a boyfriend or anything, he's just a friend. And I said, well, I think he wants to be more than friends. Okay. And so I could tell it freaked her out a little bit, and it freaked me out too. But I'm like, wow, how did that happen? Okay. So then I kind of chilled out for a little bit. I had some things to do. I went back in the chat. This is all the same day. So I started reading for another guy, and I was doing the read. I got the King of Wands for him. So I actually felt that the King of Wands, that he might have red hair. So I asked if he had red hair, and he said yes. So I was like, oh, King of Wands, because he normally has red hair, right? So I just happened to ask him about his hair. So we were I'm doing the reading, and here comes the clairaudience again. And this time I heard the name Joanne. So I asked about, do you know a Joanne? And he goes, I just broke up with her. He goes, yes, I do. And so I'm doing the reading and all that stuff. And mind you, I'm not a professional. This is my first 2 reads of the day. So I just go ahead and I do the reading and the tarot reading, and we eventually finish. But imagine those are your first 2 readings. And you get something like that. You're getting, and I don't always get names anymore, but I was very wide open back then. So to get those on my very first 2 readings of my life, I knew that there's something here and stuff that is, that maybe I'm not crazy and I need to pursue this. And it also fascinated me. I mean, that's one of the big things is like, there was a mystery here to solve. There was definitely a mystery here that I really wanted to know how people could do this. Another thing I did, which was really fun once, so this is in the beginning. I was looking for psychic tests online. And they had Zetter card ones, just like the ones I showed you guys in the group. So I came across this one psychic thing. You could do tests. You would see something and then meditate on it. And then you click the link and then they would reveal the answer. So one of the tests, I don't remember anything about the rest. He showed a letter. And it was just a very basic, there's no way to tell who it is. Just talking about everyday type normal stuff. But he shows a letter, and the website says, use your abilities to tune in who wrote the letter. So I'm sitting there and I'm looking at the letter. I hardly read it, but I started to hear, my hearing, okay? I heard Sigmund Freud. And so I'm like, okay, Sigmund Freud, let's see what it is. So I clicked the link and I'll be damned, it was written by Sigmund Freud. And nothing in that letter that I saw had anything to do with psychology or the id, ego, super ego, none of that. It was just a basic letter to a friend, talking about, shit, whatever. And when I saw that Sigmund Freud wrote that letter on this psychic test, that blew me away. So that's one of my major hits I did in the beginning too. And I'm like, there's no way there's no way. I just sat there, I was totally stunned. I was like, there is no way. So that's kind of some of my introductions and everything. And some of the responses I had from people, just like the lady I kind of scared, but I almost scared myself when I got that letter right. That was insane. I couldn't believe it. So yeah, just having experiences like that really just compelled me to go further and further with the ability. So the next question, I'm going to have to bring this over. Oh, did Pamela ask a question again? Yeah, she did. Okay, here we go. We can pop this up. Hopefully I can finish the video without going out. Okay, so I'll probably ask a couple more. So Pamela asks, how do you keep your confidence when you are reading a past loved one for someone and you get a lot of info that does not resonate with them? If something happens, I have a rule. Before I do my video read where I just let it loose, sometimes I may ask a question or two, though a lot of times I don't. Sometimes I'll just see that, I'll go ahead and do the read, video, make it, send it. But sometimes I feel the need, maybe I should ask a question, maybe one or two at the very most. Like I may ask cause of death. One of my preliminaries to a reading, if I am going to touch on a medium read, is I normally ask cause of death. And if I get that wrong, I don't do it. So that is pretty much what I do. If I'm wrong on one or two things, and it's always a reading within the question, I'm not trying to pull info, I'm just trying to validate what I'm feeling. So for instance, if I say, did they pass of a heart attack? If they say no, I may move on right then and there. Now, if I feel real strongly, even though I said that, say I've got a heart attack, this, that, and but it won't let go, then I may go a little further. Now, was it a situation where, they didn't have a heart problem, but maybe cancer, but the actual death was heart attack, but it was a cancer situation, that they had like lung cancer or something. And they're like, oh yes, ultimately the heart stopped. That's what, I'm just giving an example. Then if they validate, then I'm going to make my video or whatever and do a full read. But if they're like no and no, I'm done. I'm not going to pursue it. And I get a little frustrated with people who, if they're wrong, and they keep going, because then it becomes a guessing game. I know they're doing that, and it's going nowhere. And it looks like, I think I made it. I usually, this is Patrick. I usually rely on my intuition when using oracle cards. I do get messages, but they are not in a different voice. So we kind of talk about the voice. Yes, one of the things, especially with ability, you should have a little bit different voice when the higher self is talking. Mine comes across to the masculine. That's how I know. That's real distinct with my higher self. And I know we're about to lose power, so I better wrap it up. I would like to know what it's like, and how do you get your messages, in which form? How was your first time getting a message? Which I already talked about, the first time getting a message. Steve was my first message. And do you also read without tarot? So with that, what it's like getting a message. When I hear my higher self, I hear it, I should point this way, in the masculine. That's how I know that it's my higher self kind of talking. It's like the divine masculine is the way I view my higher self. And I can read without tarot, especially if I'm out and about in the world and I may need to use my intuition and so forth. Definitely, I can do it. The reason why I like tarot is this. I don't have to use it. It's something concrete that I can show as evidence to those I read for. So when I pull, like, let me give an example. So I've got the Lover's reverse. Okay? So the good thing about it, if I'm doing a relationship read, if I get the Lover's reverse, this is the evidence they probably need to part ways, right? So say I'm doing a reading without cards. I'm feeling the spirit is really making me feel that you two need to part ways. I'm definitely get a feeling that there has been some problems and some arguments that, they are kind of saying that this could be an abusive situation. Okay, now that may resonate with them and that's totally cool. But maybe somebody is like, what if she just flapping her gums? Okay, but when I can show evidence, which there's no way I didn't rig these cards. I've got the Lover's reverse and I've got the Hierophant reverse. The Hierophant can be my symbol of marriage. When he is reversed, he is separating the lovers. He no longer approves of the union. And then I have the Two of Swords. We need to make a decision between this. I know we're in the stay or go position. Spirit's giving me the cards to give you a good example. We're in a stay or go position, and we do need to make a choice. It's never a clean choice with the Two of Swords. There's always a sacrifice. So it's something that I can show the people I read for, some kind of evidence that I couldn't control these cards. They watched me shuffle, or maybe they didn't see me shuffle, but they watched me cut the deck. And they know I couldn't have rigged the cards. So that's why I like tarot. It just gives a little bit more rounded picture, and it becomes my evidence for what I have to say as the message from the higher self. I do hope you guys enjoyed my questions and answers, and I will do more.